unassigned. And so with this resolution, we are removing or requesting about, what was $80,000 or so from this.
Okay, so the six basically.
Yeah, right. It would leave about $350,000 remaining in the stormwater utility fund unassigned.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, because that gives us a good idea. Because I know we had built up some significant money over time, and I appreciate that. Yeah, because that gives us a good idea. Because I know we had built up some significant money over time. And that answers my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Fletcher. David?
I'm good. I understand.
Eric?
Yeah. Hey, Tom. I know it says just Bunning Avenue, but does that include any of like Towey and Wren, where there's, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's not really a storm sewer, or is that an additional project that'll be done down the road?
Yeah, this project does not include any improvements beyond strictly along Bunting Drive.
Okay. Yeah, I was just, because I know a lot of those, they're not underground, it's still just using, I guess, what you call a culvert to direct that flow. But I guess that will be, when it gets to Bunting Drive, it will at least go into an actual storm sewer at that point.
Correct. It will tie into this new pipe at that point, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Kevin?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, I'm good. All right, got that one. Go ahead, Rachel. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm still hearing that we're having some sound issues on our Facebook stream. We are currently streaming this through our Facebook account as well as YouTube. We advertised the YouTube link in our agenda as well, and I'm checking to see if the YouTube feed is okay. Apparently on Facebook, they can see us, they can't hear us, but the closed captioning is on. So, and I know that Ricky is working on it as well. So we can take just a minute. My person's letting me know if they can watch it on YouTube. Okay, YouTube is okay. The stream there is okay. So I don't know if it's a Facebook thing. Facebook is fixed too. So, okay. Okay, so we're hearing from a couple people that Facebook is working too. So for everyone who's out there watching and listening, thank you for your patience. And yes, please just keep checking with us and letting us know if the feed falls out. But I'm hearing from a lot of people we're back in. Okay. Nothing we can't overcome. Okay. For the council agenda, no more questions about the resolution for Lyndhurst drainage. That's what we have for the regular meeting in terms of agenda review that needs to happen. If there's no other questions about the regular meeting, we can move on to item number 2 of our study session agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay, so moving on to item number 2. Item number 2 is the status of utility charges and taxes issued by the city of North Augusta. So we've got some information that we want to share to you. We're providing the status of the bulk of our revenue collection, and we're doing this because we've received a number of inquiries about how are our collections going amid the coronavirus pandemic. Are you all still even collecting fees? Are you, or charges, I should say, are you levying late fees? So we wanted to share this with all of you as council and of course any of our residents who are watching so that we can clarify payment due dates, late fees, penalties of the such. I do just want to remind everyone, we are a little unique in that our budget is a calendar year budget. So you may be seeing in the news other communities talking about wrapping up their budget and how this past quarter and the upcoming quarter will hurt them on their annual budget. While the COVID pandemic may impact us, we've only just closed out our first quarter of our FY20 fiscal year. So just a little reminder there. What I'm going to do now is share my screen with everyone. Council, I emailed to you all a handout earlier today going over everything that we'll talk about this evening. And so I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see it. And of course, anyone who's watching can see it as well. Give me just a second here. Okay, there we go. So what I'll do is I've got 4 types of payments to update everyone on. I will hit the highlights for you here. I'll run through the information. Then I will stop sharing my screen and we can come back and see each other and have full discussions. So utility payments. We've been getting a lot of questions from folks about making utility payments. I do want to clarify that utility payments are still required. Utility payments are made for water and wastewater consumption, recycling, sanitation, stormwater, and streetlight service. So this is provided to the customers based on services that they receive for us. We have not made a change in our utility payment due dates. We do have rolling billing cycles. Per the governor's executive order, we will not shut off utilities for non-payment during this state of emergency. One of the things that I do want to clarify is that we are still issuing a late fee for individuals who make their utility payment late. We have here some utility payment data. This is the most recent billing cycles that we wanted to share with you. So we have for you the 2019 billing cycle versus the 2020 billing cycle so that you can see the number of people who are late on their payment. So in 2020, the billing cycle as of March 25th had almost 100 more bills on it. So we have more bills that we're issuing. But you can see that as of Friday, these numbers are from Friday, there were 1,400 bills still unpaid. This time last year, there was 1,000 bills that were past due. So there's 400 people potentially, if they didn't pay over the weekend or today, 400 more people late this year than there was last year, this billing cycle.
Rachel.
The billing cycle prior to that, which would have been issued on March 10th. Once again, we had more bills in 2020 that were issued than there were in 2019, showing the growth of our city. During this cycle, there was 198 more bills that were past due than there were this time last year. So another thing to focus on is the disconnect list. So typically if someone doesn't pay their bill and they go into late payment status, we do robo phone calls reminding them to make their payment. And upon a certain time, if they don't pay, we do disconnect utilities. So if we look back at the billing cycle of March 25th, the comparison between 2019 and 2020, in 2019, we had 157 people on the disconnect list. Currently, if we were disconnecting, we would have 401 people on the disconnect list. For the March 11th/March 10th billing cycle, we had 115 people on the disconnect list in 2019. In 2020, we have 524 people who would have been disconnected because they were late. So we average about 175 customers on the disconnect list traditionally anyway. So you can see that we are above the average currently in the people who would be disconnected for non-payment of utilities. We've been asked why we are still issuing the late fee. Issuance of late fees is built into our budget. As you can see here in FY20, delinquent fees total $277,000 in revenue for the city. So delinquent payments are not anything new, and issuance of late fees is something that we traditionally do to the extent that we budget it for our annual budget. At this point, we don't have a way of knowing why people are late in their payment. Again, we have had customers call and think that the utilities are free currently. They are not. I don't know if that was a misunderstanding or if maybe they're just choosing to pay other bills first. So to move on.
Rachel?
Yes, sir.
Pat had a comment she wanted to ask.
Yes, Rachel. Can you
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
me? Okay. I was stopped at the red light last week, and this woman just hollered over, "How you doing?" I said, "Great." And she said, "Well, I'm trying to pay my water bill, and I can't." And I guess I should have looked at is there something on the front door that says the drop box? And because I know a lot of people, we have it on the website and things like that, but there's probably a lot of people who don't go to the website. So, because she said, "I'm trying to pay my bill and I can't." Of course, the light changed green and she took off. And I did not know her. Undoubtedly, she knew me, but I did not know her. But so is there a way, is there something if they come to the municipal building that says, go to the drop box?
Yes, ma'am. There is. We do have posted on the front door a few different things. One, we do have the list of ways people can pay, which is at the drop box at the municipal building through our online payment portal, or they can place it in the mail. Just about every day that I'm here and most other staff, as we're coming in and out of the building, we encounter customers who are also trying to pay, and we guide them to where the drop box is. I posted on social media recently the location of the drop box to make it easier for folks as well.
Okay. Now, back to the late fees. Do we charge, I mean, this could go on for several, let's say 2 months. Are people charged a late fee per month?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
They are, okay. And then also, do maybe we need to put on the website, because it could be a misunderstanding with people that you are not getting free water and sewer and all, that you are still being charged. We're just not cutting off right now, but you will be charged a late fee and you will be charged. I mean, they might just not realize that.
You make a good point. Absolutely. We can certainly clarify that, because I think it's important to clarify.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Anyone else have a question so far? Raise your hand or unmute yourself. Either way, I can tell. Looks like not. Rachel, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. The second item I wanted to talk about is property tax payments. Of course, we know property tax payments are made on property owned by the individual, by the citizen. Emails are popping up. There is no change in the property tax payment due date at this point. We don't anticipate making changes. The due date is May 1st. So the taxes currently being collected are for the 2019 tax year. So if customers do not pay on time, our standard 15% penalty plus delinquent statement fee will be charged. We've not altered our penalties for late payment. The large mortgage company tax remittances have already been received for 2020. We received them in March this year. Typically, we'll receive them in April. We have about 1,200 delinquent property tax notices annually that we issue. Something to note, properties with unpaid taxes will potentially be sold at the tax sale in November. So if we have a citizen who does not pay their property tax on time, they essentially have 6 months to remit payment to us before a possible tax sale. So I know there had been concerns of citizens not being able to make tax payments and potentially having their property go to sale and lose it. It's not a swift process by any means. There is plenty of time for people to work to make their payment. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Rachel, can you explain in your chart what the collection rate means? I know Cammie explained it to me where it says this year we're at 35% of the collection rate versus 24 last year.
Yes. So if you look at it from a point in time, by March 31st last year, we were at about a 24% collection rate. By March 31st this year, we're at 35%. That is most likely attributable to the large mortgage company tax remittances already being received. And it's also compared to the budget as well, the general fund budget. So to date, we are higher than we were last year.
Thank you. Anyone have any comments or questions on this?
Well, I guess, again, we have to be sure citizens know these things.
Okay.
And you know, that bothers me that a lot, that they might not. And back to my, are we going to do any, like Rachel, any circumstances, let's say there's both adults in the house are working, but both are laid off. And I mean, I'm sure it is hard to pay your water bill. I mean, will we look at any circumstances and maybe do away with the late charge in those cases, or it'll just be across the board?
Okay. So, you want to weigh in?
For our customers, if someone is in good standing, we do have payment plans available for utility okay. Customers.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Kelly, you wanted to say something? I can't, Kelly, if you're talking, we can't hear you. No. I think it looks like Kelly passed out of frustration. Okay. He looks like he's on the phone as well.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any comments?
Mr. Mayor, I guess my only other comment would be, does this 35% represent just a large portion of the mortgage servicers, or this all of them? And I guess I would have just anticipated that our property tax amounts would be a higher percent coming from loan service companies versus directly from citizens.
So the 35% collection rate represents that we've collected 35% of our general fund budgeted property tax amount. So that can be from mortgage companies, individual payments, etc. We did receive some of our large mortgage company payments. They typically come in April, and they arrived in March. And so that is assisting in the increase, but it is as a percentage of budget. So overall, our collection is up for March 31st.
Right. I guess I didn't know if we had a read for, people that are paying their mortgage payments month over month. The part that's our portion, the city's portion, is going into an escrow account. So obviously those mortgage companies have people's money to pay the tax bill. My concern on, city's collection for property taxes would be on people who do not have a loan and thus are paying those tax payments direct out of their own checking accounts. And so I didn't know if we had a read for, are we still anticipating a lot of mortgage companies payments still coming in, or have we now collected pretty much all of those mortgage payments and now the balance is coming from, private citizens and business owners directly?
We will still have some mortgage company payments that they came in on the 1st of April. So you'll see that. Also, as part of our tax budget is vehicle taxes. And so that comes from Aiken County, those checks do. So a lot of different pieces of the tax, a portion of that comes from Aiken County. So that goes into it as well. It's not an individual payment. Unfortunately, we do not have a mechanism currently in our software to track what type of payment it is, if it was an individual payment or a bank payment.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just quickly, and I know we've already touched on this, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but and I'm not even really sure how you do it. So I guess I'm just throwing something up and just having a conversation. But I mean, could there be any conversation about some sort of a hardship process for people that are out of work in this job to, and I understand what you're saying about the property tax payments. You technically have until November anyway. But some sort of a hardship application process that if you've not been late on any of the payments in a certain amount of time, and I guess that's probably a logistical nightmare to try to process that. But is there any thought that could be given to something along those lines to help people that are being called up to all of this?
So you may have
Well, Rachel, do you want to handle it? I mean, we've talked about that, and that's one of the reasons we were asked the briefing tonight to give an idea about where we are in this whole process. I don't know how we do that. I've tried to think of staff and who would make that decision and how exactly you could do that equitably. And I guess that's where I'd certainly rely on Rachel and Kelly, I think, to figure out even if it's legal or not. So I'll shut up and listen.
I'm happy to address that. Kevin, are you referring to utility payments?
I think primarily, I would be open to having the conversation with property tax payments, but I think that is a different animal. I think I am more specifically talking about utility payments.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Yes, we have been talking internally on a mechanism for individuals to apply for utility payment assistance. There are other cities that do that for utilities, and I'm sure you're all familiar with electric companies that provide the same. So internally, we're looking at that. Part of the reason that we are wanting to share this information with you all tonight is to begin the dialogue to see if any of you had thoughts along those lines, if you would support a program like that. With property tax payments, we haven't had that discussion regarding property tax, although we can certainly look at a number of things if you all would like us to, but with utility payments, yes, we're farther down the road at looking at a program for our utility customers.
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Eric, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of follow up with what Kevin said. I mean, you know, I understand that people are still getting water. The late fees, you know, certainly, especially if they're having a hardship. We have many people that live in the city that have been, you know, working restaurants and other places that have been closed down for the time being. So I would be all for that. You know, something that might make it easier is, you know, just, you know, maybe a tax return or something that just shows that, hey, I work at a restaurant, the water's in my name. I mean, I don't know if y'all thought about that, but you know, how many restaurants and gyms, and I mean, there's very few essential. I mean, I know there may be people that take advantage of it, but I think the honest people, you know, it might be a good thing to do.
Okay.
I was just going to touch on real quick what Rachel mentioned earlier. So related to the utility payments, we currently already have a payment program in place if there's someone suffering a hardship. So it is, you know, the individual would need to reach out to the finance department in advance of their bill being due, and they would apply for the payment program. So it's, you know, we would look at their standing, see what type of customer they've been, how many times they've been late, and it's just their recent history. We would also look at if they've had a payment agreement before and if they've kept that payment agreement. So we do actually already have that particular piece in place, but we're looking at expanding it into other options. But if you know of someone who is currently, you know, displaced and having trouble figuring out how to make their utility payment, if they'll reach out to finance, we can look at their eligibility under our current policy for a payment agreement.
Thanks, Cammie.
Fletcher, do you have anything additional?
No, sir.
Okay, David? Okay, Mr. Brooks, I see your green light.
I would support looking at the property tax payment as well, and maybe extend it, the deadline, to September or until late October. If people are having this type of hardships. That's all I would have.
Okay. I'm sorry, David, did I cut you off?
No, no comment. I'm good.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. And that's one of the reasons we started the dialogue, and we've looked at it. I suspect when you talked about delaying property taxes till September, Cammie probably twitched up a little bit. You know, we've got our bills to pay, and we continue to look at cash flow throughout the year. We've pretty much kept every employee you know, on the payroll full time. So we're going to be looking at that in terms of what the projected cash flow is. And I've asked Cammie and Rachel to look at that, and they're in the process of doing that. So, and I also talked about, you know, I'm just reluctant to commit city staff to making you know, facing a large number of applicants for these, because quite honestly, we're not staffed for it. But there's, you know, Kimona exists in town, and they've had pretty good experience in history in terms of figuring out how to help people, and maybe as a screening agency. We've not talked to them, but that's something that we need to explore as a means of helping staff with decisions and where assistance might be coming from. So I appreciate everybody's comments. Anybody else?
Well, I just think sort of what Cammie said, we also need to look at the history of people. You know, if it's a chronic every month, then you sort of know. But if you're someone who's never asked for assistance, or, we need to look at that too, the history of your customer.
Agree. Kelly, are you back? Do you want to try again, or? No, can't hear you. Okay, this is not unexpected. I had this problem earlier in the week, and one where you couldn't see me, couldn't hear me, and I finally had to come in and get Ricky to help me with it. So we'll continue to work on it. Okay, Rachel, back to you.
Okay, thank you. The last two, I'm checking in on time at 6:42. Make sure we have enough time. The last two are accommodations tax payments and hospitality tax payments. And what I'm going to say for both will be very similar. So I'll just tackle them both here at the same time. So accommodations tax payments are submitted by hotels and the sort, but the tax itself is paid by the customer of the hotel. And so we are still levying accommodations taxes. The payment due date is the 20th of the month. So when they remit on the 20th, they're submitting all of the tax from the prior month. So it's 1 month in arrears. So if a hotel does not submit payment on time, we charge a standard 5% per month penalty. This is standard across the board for most municipalities. And so provided here is information for you to see. February 2019, we had 16 remitters, none of them were late. February 2020, we had 17 remitters, none of whom are late. We don't really have a problem with late submission of accommodations tax. And I should note that if someone pays their accommodations tax to us on time, if the hotel submits, we do provide a discount on the tax that's due. So that's an incentive for the hotel to submit on time. Very similarly with hospitality tax payments, the tax is paid by the customer who's purchasing prepared food or drink. They submit it to the restaurant and the restaurant submits it to us. So it's a pass-through payment. There's been no change in the due date. It is also due the 20th of the month for taxes submitted in the prior month. They have the same 5% per month penalty that's charged if they are late. So you can see actually this time last year, February last year, we had 5 late submitters. February this year, we only had 1 person who was late. They get the same discount of tax due that accommodations taxpayers get as well. So I bring this up because there are some communities that have delayed payment for hospitality and accommodations taxes, and it's probably 6 1/2 dozen of the other with municipalities across the state, whether or not they are delaying their payment due date. But I just wanted to again mention that our due dates are still on time and emphasize that this is it's a pass-through payment. So it's not above and beyond what hotels or restaurants are already paying in their own personal taxes.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any comments? Go ahead and unmute yourself and I'll be able to tell. Fletcher?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess Rachel, all of that makes sense to me as far as accommodations and hospitality, yes, because that's not the business's expense. It's something they've already collected. They're just remitting payment. My concern is what are the collections amounts? Because obviously accommodations and hospitality surely are down. So, and Mr. Mayor, you made comments earlier about, and y'all are doing exactly what I would expect you to do of monitoring, looking at what our collections are. But I'm concerned about those 2 particular revenue streams that the city has. because those are directly related to people spending, and didn't know if, I guess twofold. What are our collections looking like in those? Are they down by how much? And then what measures is the city taking for the items we fund with that revenue stream? Are we delaying, things that were budgeted to be used, to be funded by hospitality tax? Are we delaying till third quarter to make those purchases or expenditures to make sure we're going to have funds, those kind of things? So if you could shed some light on that, that'd be helpful.
Okay, I can answer that one. As far as the hospitality and accommodations taxes, we will have our first data set. Today was the due date. So we didn't really run any, data analysis because today is the actual due date. So we'll need a few days to get all those payments processed and posted and then perform the analysis. So we should have March collections analyzed, I would say, by the end of the week to have a better idea of what it looks like. Because looking at February isn't really telling us anything. We're also planning to look at individual businesses and how their performance has changed compared to how they performed for the March period last year. Some businesses still continue to have active lines, active delivery, being creative and innovative. And so we're unable to determine what that impact is until we get their remittance in. So that will be coming a little bit later once we have the data set. And then as far as projects being funded from the Riverfront and Central Core Fund, we have delayed any additional capital projects at this time until further notice, till we're able to analyze the collections.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cammie.
So does that mean that the amphitheater's on hold?
No, that contract was already in place. And so we will still make whatever payments that you guys allocated out of that. But majority of the amphitheater came from the bond fund. And so that was already done. And then I believe there was a piece from the capital projects fund as well.
Anyone else? Pat, do you have something?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on anything? And just as a general comment, I'm probably driving Cammie and Rachel nuts with requests about exactly the kind of things that you're all concerned about, as well as what's the resources looking like? What are our expenditures? Can we defer some and delay them just to get us until we have a better understanding of what the data is? And the monthly reports are coming out, which will be available for everybody to look at, and we'll provide special information. But this tonight was a start in terms of how we're looking at some of this. This was more participation, but we'll get dollar values that we're tracking as soon as we can get them and somewhat validated.
Now, is there any news on the baseball though? I mean, because everything's on the season or anything. I'm talking about Green Jackets.
Only what I read in the paper. Only what I read in the paper.
Yeah.
And that is that nobody really has a firm answer to it. Kelly, I see you've got a different speaker there. You're muted right now. You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, how about that? And I apologize for this kind of not being in order where it should have been. I just wanted to remind you that where the water and sewer payments, we have bonds that very much control what we do about rates and collections, forgiveness, anything of that nature. I'm not saying it's absolutely impossible, but when we do bonds for water improvements, one of the things we do is we guarantee to set certain rates, establish rates, not give away water, and things of that nature. So if we're looking to try to do anything with that, we we need to talk with the bonding people. I think it may be rather difficult. The other thing is just a comment on tax sales of real estate. That Rachel went through the procedure and talks about the fact that there's a 6-month period that a payment can be delinquent before it even goes to a sale. But I wanted to point out that even if the property is sold at a tax sale next November, that tax sale is not really valid and binding and not overturnable for another year. So there's basically, even after a tax sale, there's another year for a person to come in, pay the taxes with penalties, and protect the real estate.
Thank you. That's good information. I knew you had something relevant to contribute, and I'm glad you finally figured it out. Welcome to the technology age.
Ricky called me and gave me a little help.
I'm in the municipal building myself, just because of my fear was I wouldn't have been able to connect, and I was at home, I would have been lost. So, good. Glad to have you. Okay. Any other comments? All right, then let's adjourn this meeting, see if we can find the email and reconnect back for the council meeting. Rachel?
Yes, I'd like to just remind everyone, if you're viewing at home on YouTube or Facebook, just stay where you are. It's the same stream. Everyone participating on the council meeting will log out of this meeting and log into the regular session meeting. You should have all of that information in your email from Sharon from Friday. That's all.
Okay.
Just all
and maybe the next one or two. Hopefully, the glitches will become less frequent as we go along, but certainly we expect some. So I'd ask you to stand or whatever you choose for the invocation and then the pledge. Dear God, we're thankful that we have the opportunity to gather, albeit remotely, to conduct for the invocation and then the pledge. These are times for which we have no experience, but we're thankful for the people with the wisdom and the interest and the ability to connect us so we may do the wise thing and keep our separation from others just to protect ourselves and to protect them, since this virus is so insidious and we would not know if we were carrying the virus ourselves. We ask you to be with our city employees, some of whom are working every day out in the public, providing services to the citizens of this city, and others who are struggling to deal with working at home, with the challenges that we face as we go about our business there. We just ask you to bless this city of North Augusta and this nation and get us through these tough times so we may go back to enjoying the contact and friendship and laughter with our family and friends. Keep everyone safe and healthy. Amen.
Amen.
You ready for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As I indicated when we had the sessions the end of last week, I'll be calling the roll for both attendance as well as comment and votes on each of the items before us tonight. Attendance first, Bob Brooks.
I'm here at home.
Good. Ms. Carpenter.
I'm present and I'm at my house.
Mr. Dickert.
I'm here and I'm at corporate headquarters.
Mr. McGee.
I'm here in my office.
Mr. Presnell.
I'm here sitting in my dining room.
Mr. Toole.
Present from my home.
And I'm also present, albeit from the municipal building. Okay, council, you've been provided the regular and study session meeting minutes of April 6th of 2020. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as provided. I see none, so they'll stand approved as provided. First on the agenda tonight is item number 5, Employee of the Quarter. And the Employee Recognition Committee selected Robert Briggs, a sanitation worker with public services, as the Employee of the Quarter for January, February, and March 2020. Robert started working with the city on July 5th of 2012. He works independently, collecting metal and white goods, work order tasks, and of course, doing all other duties as requested. He's also the one that willingly fills in when others are absent. Robert is an outstanding, dedicated employee with a great positive attitude. He has a high work ethic, and he's always courteous to others. Robert has received praise from both staff and citizens because of his willingness to go above and beyond. This was apparent in March when Robert assisted a new mother. Obviously, he concluded busy with her new baby, and she forgot to put her trash out to the curb. Robert got the cart, and emptied it for her. The young mother was so appreciative that Robert had made sure that her trash was emptied. She called, left a voice message, and actually the footage from her front doorbell camera showing Robert in action. That's the kind of service to our citizens that I always talk about. Thank you, Robert. And Mr. Briggs, the employee of the first quarter for 2020, will receive a plaque and $50 in his next paycheck. Congratulations to Robert. When I received the email from Rick Meyer providing me the name and details on the employee of the quarter, he forwarded some comments from Tanya Strickland, who, as you know, is the stormwater superintendent. And I'd like to read part of what she said as well. And this is from Tanya. I would like to nominate each employee that has had to continue arriving each day to conduct their jobs who don't have the option to work from home. She felt that every one of those employees deserved recognition this quarter. She says this pandemic has affected everyone in different ways, but each of us are stressed by the invisible virus that may be lurking on things, equipment, door handles, bags, roll carts, shovels, co-workers, anywhere. There are those employees who do not get to stay in their homes. These many dedicated North Augusta public servants are dealing with the very invisible stress every single day. They are the ones she felt that deserve this award. They come in, do their jobs just as if the pandemic did not exist. They are ready, willing, and able every day. She concludes, it's got to be hard on them and their family. They are the truly award-worthy employees of this quarter. She called it the COVID quarter, and hopefully it's the only one. I want to thank Tanya for those thoughts. It's very well put. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 6, resolution number 2020-14, accepting a deed of dedication for the water distribution system, sanitary sewer, and associated easements and rights of way, along with a maintenance guarantee and letter of credit for the Compt townhomes. The chair moves to adopt this resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
I heard Mr. Toole, I think, first. Is Rachel, do you want to just briefly talk about this? I see Tom's not here, I guess.
That's right. This is a standard deed of dedication for the water, sanitary sewer, easement, rights of way, plus the maintenance guarantee for the LeCompte townhomes, which will be at the intersection of LeCompte Ave and Summerhill Road.
Okay, Ms. Lamar, were there any comments received on this particular item on the agenda?
No, sir, there were no citizen comments for this.
Okay. Council, I'm going to call the roll for comments. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
No, I'm calling for comments first. We'll vote next. Sorry.
Okay. Rachel, are there 4 or 6 condominiums being built on the property?
I counted 5 based on the map we received.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Carpenter, any comments?
No comments, no comments.
Mr. Dickert?
No comments.
Mr. McGee?
No comment.
Mr. Presnell?
No, sir, no comment.
Mr. Toole?
No comments.
I have none. We'll proceed now to the vote. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes,
Mr. Dicker?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so it is unanimous. Moving on to item number 7, resolution number 2020-15, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the low bid of Reeves Construction Company for the Lyndhurst Drainage Improvement Project. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Second.
Mr. Presnell, do I have a second?
Second. I second it.
Oh, Mr. Brooks, I'm sorry. I thought Eric was pulling double play on us there. Thank you. So Mr. Presnell and Mr. Brooks. And Ms. Lamar, were there any comments on this item on the agenda?
No, sir, no comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. Polling council again for comments. Mr. Brooks?
No comments.
Ms. Carpenter?
no comment.
Mr. Dicker?
No comments.
Mr. McGee?
No comments.
Mr. Presnell?
No comments.
Mr. Toole?
No comments.
And I have no comments. Now to the vote on item number 7, which is resolution 2020-15. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes,
Mr. Dicker?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
And the chair, I vote yes as well. So it's unanimous as well. Thank you very much. Moving on to administrative reports. Ms. Moody, do you want to make some comments?
I don't have any comment.
I have none either. Moving on now to comments from citizens. Ms. Lamar, I believe there were several that you received. If you could proceed with them, please.
Yes, sir, we have 3 citizens who wish to have comments entered into the record and for council to hear this evening. The first is from citizen Mr. Perry Holcomb, and his comments read, Madam Clerk, 3 items. The city has passed through its first quarter of fiscal year 2020. I would like for Ms. Moody, in conjunction with Ms. Hayes, to present a brief report at a future council meeting regarding that quarter's actual income and expenditures. Such would give the citizens some idea of how the 2020 budget is faring in the face of untoward income expenses caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, which was not part of the budget's preparation and passing. When is the audited budget for 2019 expected? Since the subject meeting and the study session are virtual without public participation, I would expect that the city would maintain audio-visual copies of these virtual meetings on its website for the record. Is such planned? I hope everyone is surviving this critical time without too much stress from an unusual style of living. Perhaps the pandemic is God's way of making us realize just who is in charge. Best regards, and stay safe and well.
Okay, thank you. Just brief comments. We obviously, as it relates to the fiscal status of the city, we are monitoring it, and at some point in time, I'll decide how best to present a briefing to council and to the public on where we stand in that. I believe the audited budget, we don't have the budget audited, but the financial report will be audited sometime, I think by sometime around the middle of the year. And I do believe that all meetings will be maintained on the city website, the same as we do for the recordings of the council meetings, which we have now. So thank you. Okay.
The next comments are from Tamara Smith, who is the Executive Director of the Aiken Barnwell Mental Health Center at 1135 Gregg Avenue in Aiken. She says, good evening. I am Tamara Smith. Aiken Barnwell Mental Health Center provides an array of high-quality mental health services to the residents of Aiken and Barnwell counties. Our mission is to support the recovery of persons with mental illness. The outbreak of the coronavirus may be stressful for you, your family, or members of our communities, as it has dramatically changed our way of life. It is common to feel stressed, confused, scared, angry, or anxious during this time. People may feel isolated and alone. It may be especially hard for people who already manage feelings of anxiety or emotional distress. People who need help can call Aiken Barnwell Mental Health Center for assistance. Anyone interested in seeking services or has general questions can call and talk with our staff at 1-803-641-7700. We will discuss current needs and options for treatment either by phone or secure video so that the individual in need may remain safe at home. These are precautions to help limit patient and staff exposure to the coronavirus in our community. Anyone experiencing a psychiatric crisis may contact our crisis team at 1-833-364-2274. The crisis line is available 24 hours a day, 7 days per week, and 365 days per year. Law enforcement and dispatch may also contact the crisis team for assistance should they encounter someone experiencing a psychiatric crisis or would like to consult with our team. It's okay to reach out for help. Taking care of your mental health during COVID-19 is important. We truly appreciate the opportunity to share information with you and the residents of North Augusta.
Thank you. Sharon, would you mind reading the phone numbers again, just in case people didn't get a chance to get them the first time? The first one is for the Mental Health Center assistance.
Yes. Anyone interested in seeking services or has general questions can contact the staff at 1-803-641-7700. Their crisis team is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for someone who is having a crisis of some psychiatric crisis. That number is 1-833-364-2274.
Thank you, and I thank Ms. Smith for reminding us that service that they provide is available, and I know it is stressful, so I do appreciate her reaching out to us for this. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, could that be put on the website, those numbers though? I mean, looks like that is really a big need probably right now. That people could come back to our website and get the numbers.
Yes. Ms. Moody is shaking her head yes. So yes, we can put them on there, and we will put them on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Our third and final comment from citizen is from our citizen Karen Powell. She is at 320 Clay Avenue in North Augusta. Dear Mayor Pettit, this is a follow-up to the November 17th City Council meeting where I spoke regarding my concerns with the rezoning for the Fire Station number 1 location. At this meeting, I asked 6 questions of you, and you were able to answer 1 that night. You said you would get back to me regarding the rest of the questions. We also spoke briefly after the Planning Commission meeting on December 18th concerning the same issue. I haven't yet received any communication from you. During the subsequent council meeting, the Planning Commission chair publicly charged the council to involve the neighbors in the planning decisions regarding the new fire station. Steve Bryant spoke about moving forward together and framed what a great opportunity this was to show cooperation with the city and the neighbors of the fire station. When we left that meeting, we left with promises of cooperation, involvement, and communication between the city and the neighbors. Unfortunately, the communication promise has not yet been realized. In February, I saw on social media information regarding a neighborhood meeting to show the plans for the fire station number 1 to be held on February 12th. That was the first time we, the neighbors, had heard of any meeting. We contacted our neighbors to inform them of the meeting, and none had been contacted by the city. At the neighborhood meeting located at station number 3, I voiced concerns over the minimal buffer on the west side of the property with such a large unused buffer on the observatory side. It's my understanding that the interim city administrator proposed to council at the last city council meeting the approved footprint for the new fire station. I was unable to see this drawing as I stayed home because of the concerns of COVID-19. During the meeting, I saw that public comments related to the design were not permitted at that time. I've been told that those that did attend that there is still considerable unused buffer on the observatory side and only a 15-foot buffer on the west side of the property. I've also been told that the entrance and the exit on Clay have been removed and the detention pond have been eliminated, and I want to thank council for that. I'm asking for communication with us, the neighbors, as you continue this project. Would the city please consider a buffer for contiguous properties of at least 25 feet, since that allowance would accommodate the fire station needs and would place the structure more across the entire property instead of pushing it to the side of the highest populated border of the property. I understand the project is moving forward, and again, we are looking forward to it, but we would still appreciate communication and involvement. I'm hopeful that the lack of communication was just an oversight that will be corrected. I would like for this request to be read for the record for the April 20, 2020 council meeting. Thank you for your time. Karen W. Powell.
Okay, thank you for reading that, and thank you, Ms. Powell, for your comments. The public forum and the public meeting was an opportunity to get input in the initial phases of it as it relates to what the fire station would look like. That's why it was held out at fire station number 3. The architect has revised the plans as was shown at the study session some time ago. And we're still working now, taking that and working on the design. We received input from a number of people about what the facade or the skin of the building should look like. And we're in the process of reviewing them. And I'll ask Ms. Moody if she has any additional things or if I misspoke on something.
No, I think you covered everything properly. You didn't misspeak about anything. I believe it was the March 16th meeting that we shared the updated rendering of the site layout. And it was at that time that we showed everyone the removal of the drive coming off of Clay Street, removal of the detention pond as Ms. Powell indicated in her letter. And so we shared then how we were able to incorporate the comments from the citizens to improve the site to make everyone happy. The 15-foot buffer that she's referring to on the west side of the property, we do have a driveway that is placed 15 feet from the property line. It is located precisely at that location because our ladder truck needs a wider turning radius in order to be able to access any of the 3 bays that we will have on the site. If you travel farther up the west side of the property line, midway across our property is where you actually get to the Powell's adjoining property. And we do have a parking lot. So the driveway extends into the parking lot. And so for about a third of the way between our property and the Powell's property, there is the parking lot, and it has 15 to 20 foot buffer between the two. Further along down towards Clay, there is not any parking lot, any building or anything that abuts the Powell's property. The other neighbor's property, McIntyre's, there is approximately 45 feet between their property line and our parking lot for guests. And there's even more between his property line and the driveway off of Observatory. Like I advised you at the last meeting, and others who have inquired, we are working on the schematic design of the fire station. We are using the same footprint and template from Fire Station 3, which is why, of course, we held it out at that location. We've been able to make some updates to the layout based on efficiencies and code requirements in order to make the site safer for the firefighters that live there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Mr. Presnell.
So Rachel, that first drawing that we received, I guess it was about a month ago now, that was just the first rendition. That's not a final, exactly how it's going to go.
That is the design that we all agreed upon so that we could move forward with the layout of the building and making sure everything fit on the site. Once we get farther underway, things may move here and there, just for a variety of reasons, but that location in general is where the building, yes, is going to go.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dickert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rachel, is that concept site plan that we reviewed in that study session, is that something that we can make public or release? Because I believe that the Powells and Mr. McIntyre that lives next door, maybe they haven't seen that, because I know that plan was a direct result of some of their comments as well as other people's comments. So I feel like maybe some of those emails that we all received today is as a result of them maybe not being included on distribution of that plan. Is that something we can get in their hands?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I talked with Miss Moody today and Mr. Bryant, Miss Powell, and Mr. McIntyre. And I'm like Fletcher, if we could just include them. And Rachel and I talked earlier today about possibly having a meeting with the, close neighbors right there that this will affect, because we've had such a struggle over this fire station for the last 2 years, 3 years. I think let's finally come together a little bit on this and do include our neighbors that we're listening. And we want this to be something that will be great for our city as we look back 40 years from now, that yes, it is something great because it is one of the most important buildings in this city right now. So, but I do feel Mr. McIntyre, the Powells, and the Bryant, and Mr. Bryant is going to email every council member and mayor and Chief Thomas and Rachel some plans that he's worked on. He said we should have it maybe in the next day or two. So maybe everybody look over that too. But I do feel from my heart it is important that they are sort of kept up to date on all this. Thank you.
Mr. Toole?
I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add beyond what Pat said, but I agree. I think, just maybe setting some communication expectations, if we can kind of talk about what that looks like for them so that they understand what we mean when we say we're going to communicate as we did promise that we would do in the future. Just, again, so we're all kind of on the same page. But Pat, I agree with you. I think that we do have a real opportunity to make this. It's never going to, there are going to be concessions that have to be made where we can't just make everybody happy. It would be ideal if we could, but I think, just communication is big. We committed to them. We would communicate directly with them. And I was happy with the meeting. I thought it was a very productive neighborhood meeting. As was mentioned before, we took a lot of their ideas that were presented and created a site plan for that. And, in general, I like the site plan. Just keep communicating, keep trying to keep them involved, and, just make that a focus, continue to be a focus going forward. And I think, as Pat said, we can make this a positive thing moving forward from something that has been very contentious in the past.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Yes, sir. I do concur with what has been said, that the neighborhood should be involved in it. I think we need to listen a little more than we have been doing. They are our citizens, and yes, we're not going to be able to please everybody, as Kevin just stated. So I think we need to be more open to this particular facility. It is going to be one of the best around, and I do believe that working together, it can become a very, very successful project. And I encourage all those involved, city staff, JLA, or whomever, let's speak with these folks and put it behind us. We got to move on this. We got to get this thing out, get it moving. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Mr. McGee?
I was just saying that I did speak with Ms. Powell as well over the weekend, and I tried to reassure her some of the questions and concerns that she had, and I believe that we've addressed most of those this evening, and I think we have a good plan to move a little bit further in the next step in our communication. And just kind of wanted to publicly say that, yes, we're listening. I'm sorry that maybe some people didn't understand, or maybe some of the communication wasn't all there, but we are listening. We understand the concerns, and trust me, I'm well aware of it. I have phone calls on a regular basis on issues, and I'm concerned with them, and I try to express my concerns along with staff and the mayor as well, the best I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Personnel?
I just wanted to add to kind of what David was saying, and just remind the folks who may be watching You know, I did talk with Miss Powell, and Steve Bryant, this weekend. And I just want to remind people that, you know, we are open, you know, contact us. I think sometimes there's this aura that we're untouchable or we won't listen or we won't talk. And those two can certainly tell you. I know I took my time and talked with both of them. I'm sure Kevin, David, Pat, you know, everybody else. So just anybody that's watching, if y'all have any questions, you know, I have an email that I believe is on our website. Rachel, I don't know, maybe, or if not, you know, I have a Facebook page that you can reach me through, or also a cell phone. So I just wanted to let the people know that if they do have questions or whatever, I'll be glad to talk to them.
Okay, thank you. Miss Moody, you wanted to say something?
Oh, just to wrap it up, since I shared the drawing with you all, I have advised JLA that council liked it. I requested that the driveway off of Observatory have some curvature be added to it, which is something that the residents requested that you all reminded me of last March, and I've turned it back over to them. So from a city staff perspective, this is our time to be hands off. This is where we have JLA and the architect working on the schematic design. They're currently working on the interior, the layout. Subsequent to that, once we have that fully decided upon, the square footage that we're happy with, et cetera, we'll then move to the exterior and the facade. So I'm hoping that just the lack of information that's being put out there may just be misunderstood. It's hands-off time now for staff to let the architects do what they do. And as soon as we have additional things for council and for the community to review, we certainly will.
Okay, thank you. And I think that those comments were right on target. It's a process, and I think we're all in wait now to see what the architect and design firm come up with, so that we can look at, and particularly interested in the skin and how they put that together, and the minor additional changes made to the site layout, I think will be interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for that. Ms. Lamar, are there any more letters, comments?
No, sir, that's all this evening.
Okay. Mr. Brooks, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Carpenter, anything additional tonight?
No, sir.
Mr. Dickert?
The only thing I wanted to add, and I had sent out an email, is did we want to discuss the kind of emails that went around all weekend about recognizing the high school students, or do we want to set up a specific meeting to have a discussion on that? Because I think there's a lot of great ideas going around about how we can honor our high school seniors. And, you know, I don't know how best for us to do that. Is now the time to do that, or should we get a small group together to tackle that?
May I say something, Mayor?
Certainly.
And you know, I am for young people in this city. That's been my life. But I think at this time we should, and I talked to Eric about this, we should wait on Aiken County Public Schools. I think this is their baby, and of course we could add something to the graduation. We had to, I guess. But I think right now we need to wait. And like I said, I love the comments too, and things that people suggested with the banners. All that's wonderful. But I really feel that is up to Aiken County Public School and Mr. John Murphy right now.
Okay, thank you.
May I add something to that? Well, Ms. Pat, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, and hopefully our kids will have graduation. I'm a little biased, probably like Kevin is too, because we have seniors this year. My big thing was not necessarily let's implement it, but let's have a plan in place in case, because I mean, they have sent out these surveys and they're talking about moving graduation to next December, which I'm going, you know, Katie will be in college by then. They're talking about a virtual thing. So it wasn't necessarily, and I'm still hopeful that maybe we'll have a ceremony. One of the options was to do like a July, which I would be okay with. I just hate for these kids, and again, I'm a little biased because, Katie is graduating this year. I was just a little biased, and all of our kids have worked so hard. They deserve that. And I just wanted to have a plan in place just in case, hey, we're not going to have graduation, or it might be December. That's kind of probably disappointing to a lot of those children. And it, like I say, not necessarily we have to implement it, but just have something in place.
Mr. Dickert,
I'm sorry.
did you want to say something? I saw you went off.
Oh, no, I was having some technical difficulties. I didn't care to really add in anything additional. Okay. I don't know what's the best way to have this discussion. I tend to think it's probably best. My recommendation would be to have a small group of us, and I'm not necessarily volunteering myself, but if I need to be part of it, that's fine. But a small group of council and staff to maybe meet and hash it out, or maybe just have staff make a recommendation. But I like a lot of things that were shared in the emails. It's just implementation of some of them, as I think Mr. Brooks pointed out, could be problematic.
Well, I still say we've got to include the school and John Murphy now. I'm telling you, we cannot step above Aiken County Public School right now.
Yeah, I would like to agree with Ms. Pat. Aiken County Schools, I believe that they're going to be pretty aggressive on doing something here at the end of the school. They know that they have students that have worked very hard all throughout the county, and they want to give them their recognition. I believe they're going to get their due. I have faith that hopefully it'll be done sometime in the month of June. That's just my opinion. But I have a strong feeling that the county is going to be aggressive as possible to fulfill their duty to the seniors and allow them to have their day and their time, and try to make this as consistent with any other high school senior graduation as they possibly can. But I definitely agree with Ms. Pat. We need to allow Mr. Murphy and the school district handle their situation the best they can, and let them take the lead on this. And then if we need to try to fill in somehow, then I'm definitely supportive in doing some additional.
Okay. And I think maybe I would recommend a small group and figure out how we can support the plan that comes from the school district or from the students or parents, or however it comes about, that we can facilitate what they want to do. It's difficult, and I think we do need a small group, maybe a virtual one, or we can sit at the four corners of a room and figure out how to do it in this time. But I think that would be my recommendation in how to proceed. Since I've figured out who two of the members would be, I'm just trying to figure out now the third.
Well, Mr. Mayor or Rachel, I know you followed up with the email earlier. And, my idea of banners may not even fly because we have 320 graduates and I think you had said we don't even have enough poles to put those up in the city. Wasn't that what I was reading? I mean, I love the idea of it, but if we don't have enough, then that's going to leave a lot of kids out too. So, it was the first idea that somebody brought up to my attention, and I said, I like that. That's a good idea. But if we don't have enough, then there's no sense in pursuing at least that part.
Okay, yeah, and we still have a 4P girls basketball team that hasn't been recognized with a banquet or something, and obviously we have to get coordinated with Mr. Murphy and figure out how to do something for them too. So there's 2 or 3 things that are hanging that have been made complicated and difficult. So I appreciate that.
Well, and don't forget Mr. King Lawrence too, our superintendent. Like I said, I just think this is their their baby and they're not gonna just drop it. But I mean, I think they should take the lead, and then like David said, then if there's anything we as a city and council and mayor can do, yes, we'll step up to the plate and do that. But I do not think we should take the lead on this right now.
Okay, thank you. Want to continue? Mr. Dicker, did you have any comments you wanted to make about anything? Okay. Mr. McGee, any comments of another topic? Mr. Presnell, anything else? Mr. Toole? Okay, I have none other than to say I think this went as smoothly or more smoothly than I might have anticipated, and I thank everybody for making the effort to figure out how to do this. And as time goes on, who knows, we may become all of us technological wizards. Kelly, how would that look if you and I figured out how to do all this? We'd be somebody, wouldn't we? So, having nothing else, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.